What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American, here today to react and continue learning about the Halifax explosion. Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, feel free to go check that out first, or stay here in Part 2. That's perfectly fine as well. But in Part 1, I started learning about what an incredible story this is, and not in a good way. In a very bad way, actually. So, basically, 100 years ago, we're at the harbor in Halifax, and there is a French ship carrying way too many high explosives, and a Norwegian ship heading the opposite direction and sailing on the wrong side of the harbor. So somehow these two ships end up colliding with each other because neither one wants to get out of the way until it's too late, and it's this whole crazy 1 in a million scenario, and they collide. And that's where we left off in Part 1, on this huge cliffhanger. So I'm both excited and nervous to see what happened next. So, let's take a look.
The collision took place at a relatively low speed, and although quite damaging, did not immediately scuttle either boat.
Okay.
However, several barrels of the Mont Blanc's flammable cargo were ruptured in the smash, resulting in a huge spill of highly flammable material.
Oh. So it's actually like a frustratingly soft collision, where it's almost like, oh, we barely hit each other. It's like, dang it. But a whole lot more has happened, like beneath the boat. All this flammable liquid is spilling out, coating the rest of the boat, which is stockpiled with more explosives. Seems pretty bad.
Even at this point, though, a disaster was not yet assured.
Oh.
Without a spark, even the most explosive materials would not catch fire.
That's true. That's true. Oh, it's sad because I'm like, part of me is rooting for this not to happen, which is kind of insane because this already happened. It's been over 100 years. It blew. There was an explosion. It's called the Halifax explosion. Spoiler alert, something's going to blow up. But part of me is like, please, no, this can be okay. Maybe they just sail away from each other and it's okay. It's like, no. So there needs to be a spark as well. How is that going to happen?
For a moment, the boats drifted. Then the Emo's engines kicked in once again, and the two damaged vessels parted ways.
Oh.
As they did so, metal scraped upon metal. Sparks flew, and a fire began on board the Mont Blanc.
Oh, my gosh. There's so many little things going that have to go wrong for this all to happen. Another thing is they start up their engines again and try to pull away from each other, and in that process, they scrape the boats against each other, causing sparks, which causes a fire.
Recognizing the danger, the captain of the Mont Blanc, Amy Lemedic, ordered his crew to abandon ship.
Yeah.
They needed no further encouragement to do so.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, if I knew I was on the Mont Blanc, a ship stockpiled to the gills with high explosives, if I saw we were going to crash into another boat, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be that guy abandoning your post, but I would scream, abandon your post now! And jump overboard and swim away, right? Like, if you're going to crash into something with... props, kudos to them. They stayed on board like good sailors and were trying to maybe get out of the way at the last second. But now, the worst has happened. It's caught fire. It's probably going to explode. They all know that. And so they're just abandoning ship now. But I wonder if at this point, can they even get away before it explodes?
Piling into lifeboats, they rowed for the shore, shouting desperate warnings to anyone they could see.
Right. Right.
Alas, such was the noise and confusion out on the water that very few people on nearby boats or watching from the shore actually heard or understood these warnings.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's right. If you're in the harbor, or heck, even watching from the shore, if there's like a ship on fire, you don't necessarily just run away like you think you're in danger. You don't necessarily assume that boat is like a mini nuclear bomb. You're just like, oh dang, that looks like they're in trouble. Maybe they need help, or maybe you're just watching out of curiosity. There wasn't that much to do 100 years ago. You couldn't just turn on YouTube. You had to just sit by the harbor and watch boats explode for entertainment. So, joking aside, sadly, a lot of people in the immediate area had no way of knowing what was happening, which is really bad.
The Mont Blanc itself drifted, blazing, towards the Halifax side of the Narrows, eventually beaching itself beside Pier 6 of the harbour.
Oh.
A huge plume of smoke rose into the air above it, and people on both sides of the water were drawn to their windows or to the waterfront in order to watch the drama unfold.
Oh, no. So the boat actually got to shore. I didn't know that. People, not surprisingly, are actually being drawn towards it because they want to see it. But in part 1, we learned somehow this is the biggest non-nuclear explosion of all time, which is just absolutely insane to think about.
At 9:04 a.m. and 35 seconds, the cargo on board the Mont Blanc detonated.
Oh, man.
The explosion was a huge one.
Wow.
The blast destroyed everything within 2.6 kilometers, or 1.6 miles, of the ground.
What? 1.6 miles. Over 2 kilometers. All around it was just destroyed. That is insane to me. That a boat was carrying enough explosive to decimate that large of an area. Yeah, there's no... If you're trying to jump off the ship and swim away, if you live nearby, we're talking about over a mile. If you just live anywhere nearby, you're getting destroyed by this thing. That's absolutely unbelievable. How tragic is that?
Grounded ship. Beyond that, severe damage was done to thousands of buildings.
Oh my
and
God.
Hot fragments of metal rained down across the city.
Wow.
A gun from the deck of the Mont Blanc was launched into the air and touched down again 5.6 kilometers, or 3.5 miles away.
Something shot from the boat 5 kilometers away, from just propelled by the explosion. It's like Halifax got bombed by a small nuclear bomb or something. Like literally, it's like someone dropped a bomb on Halifax Harbor. That is unbelievable.
The shockwave travelled at many times the speed of sound and was felt across the whole of Nova Scotia.
Wow, look at these buildings. It was felt across Nova Scotia? Like the whole province felt the shockwave. Wow. This happened so long ago. I don't think there's anyone still alive who would have experienced this, and they would have been like 1 year old at most if they were alive today. I don't think anyone's still alive from this event. Man, it'd be interesting to hear about this. If you feeling it from across the province, like, look at these buildings. They've been decimated.
Buildings disintegrated, trees were flattened, cars tumbled, and ships lifted completely from the harbour and dumped onto land.
No way.
In the space of a moment, around 1,600 people were instantly killed, and many more were seriously injured.
This is just so sad. We finally got to like the aftermath of the bomb. I'm calling it a bomb. The explosion basically is a bomb. And this is the sad part. Like over 1,000 people killed instantly. like people's homes destroyed. Like, how much of the city of Halifax was destroyed? Like, look at this destruction.
Victims were buried beneath rubble, hit by flying debris, and, in many cases, received serious eye injuries as the windows they had been looking through exploded into shards of glass.
Oh my god.
As well as the destructive force of the blast, the explosion created a tsunami, a crashing 6-story wall of water that surged into the leveled city, crushing and drowning many of those who had survived the initial blast.
Okay, this is officially, like, just terrifying. This is not even... It was never funny, but some of this was, like, entertaining in a way. This is just bad. This is just horrific. Like, killed by the blast, people hit by shards of glass watching the blast. It created a tidal wave of water that killed more people. This is, it's crazy. I've never learned about this event before. And Americans, like, we don't even know about the Halifax explosion. This is an insane historical event.
The Emo was one of many ships swept up by this tsunami. As it was thrown from the harbour, almost everyone on board was killed.
Wow. Were there some people who weren't? Some people on the ship weren't killed? No, is that what we're saying? How's that possible?
Worse yet, as the water receded, fires began to burn in the wreckage. The explosion had destroyed boilers, collapsed factories, and knocked over domestic stoves.
Yeah, seriously, like, besides the loss of human life, talk about the destruction, the secondary destruction, like to the city, to all the industry, stuff that would affect people's lives in Halifax for years to come, just from destroying all the, like, manufacturing and homes and businesses. That's all, like, secondary to the loss of human life. There's all this other destruction.
Now the rubble caught fire, turning the rescue effort into a race against time.
Oh my god.
Time was not on the side of the rescuers.
Rescue, what do they mean, rescue effort? Who are we trying to rescue? Like, the people who are in the blast radius who weren't killed? Maybe, like, hit by debris or covered in debris or water, and they're trying to rescue some of the people? Yeah, okay.
Since the explosion had taken place in the context of the First World War, the natural assumption of many was that it had been due to enemy action.
Wow, yeah.
Rather than immediately focusing on rescue, soldiers ran to their posts to defend against further attack.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, how can you blame them? Can you blame them? Like, wouldn't you just assume that a missile has just struck you? Like, I can't believe this is all from a boat. Now that boat was filled with all this explosive material, but it really feels more like an attack on you. Yeah, so I totally understand that.
It was only after some hours had passed that the true source of the explosion was widely understood.
Okay.
Rescue work was grim and lengthy.
Wow.
Firefighters from across the province were joined by police and military, as well as hundreds of shell-shocked volunteers.
Wow. Well, that's now we're hearing sort of about the rescue effort afterwards, people jumping into action, and that's nice to hear about.
Dug through the wreckage, pulling out any survivors they could find.
Yeah. Yeah.
These were sent to the city's remaining medical facilities. A deluge of thousands of seriously injured casualties arrived at every available hospital in a matter of hours.
Wow, so there was 1,600 dead instantly, and then thousands more sent to the hospital because of injuries.
Several military vessels that had been close at the time of the explosion diverted to offer assistance, and were promptly converted into makeshift hospital ships.
Oh, okay. Good.
Although injured and shocked by what had happened, everyone present did whatever they could to help.
That's good.
There are even reports of children volunteering to carry messages across the town.
I mean, it does sound like, because this was after a world war, close, like, a lot of people had this mentality already of, like, okay, this is happening. How do we solve it? How do we jump into action? How do we take care of people? Seems like a lot of people still have that attitude from the war. So, for better or worse, it might have been good it happened in the same time period because people seemed really quick and efficient at offering help and understanding the situation.
This rescue effort was, however, soon complicated by worsening weather.
Oh,
The
geez.
day after the explosion, when hundreds of people were still injured, homeless, and trapped beneath rubble, a blizzard descended on the city, bringing below freezing temperatures and 1.2 meters, or 4 feet, of snow.
Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? You just can't catch a break. That is, oh my God. Like, you can't, just try to imagine. You just got hit by an explosion. Your home was destroyed. Like, you're trapped under some rubble, and now people are trying to save you. You can barely breathe, and your body is broken, and now a icy cold blizzard is descending on it. You'd just be like, what the heck is going on? What did I do? Like, what? Why?
Not only did these horrendous conditions present a challenge for rescuers, but they also stopped relief from reaching the city.
Wow.
Trains carrying medical supplies and food were forced to stop in place in zero visibility, even though
Wow.
their supplies were desperately needed within the blast zone.
How unlucky.
The Halifax explosion, then, was a disaster of many dimensions. As
Yeah.
such, the number of dead is difficult to estimate,
Okay.
but stands at around 2,000 in total,
Wow.
with a further 9,000 people suffering serious injury.
Wow. 2,000 killed. 9,000 more affected. What a momentous event in Canadian history. What an event. Like, true, this is just shocking to hear more and more of the details.
As soon as the situation on the ground was under control, an inquiry was launched to establish who had been to blame for the incident.
Oh! Oh, I didn't know we were going to get into this. Okay. Interesting. Because in part one, we were learning all about the setup and why this happened. And I didn't want to even get into, well, who's to blame here? The French ship for carrying an ungodly amount of explosive? Is it their fault? Or is it the Norwegian ship for being on the wrong side of the harbor, which caused the two ships to collide in the first place? There was an American ship that was on the wrong side, which caused the Norwegian ship to have to go to the wrong side in the first place. So, is the American ship to blame? Is the Norwegian ship, the French ship? Like, I didn't want, I don't know if there's much, like, if it's very productive to point fingers and be like, it's their fault. But, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, and clearly we're going to learn about it. But I think for now, this is a good place to stop. This is quite a long little documentary on the Halifax explosion. It's really blowing my mind. No pun intended. But I think we're going to stop here for now and continue the rest of this in part 3. So, if you've enjoyed this so far, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on the Halifax explosion. And if you're interested in part 3 or just more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.